On this week's episode, esports is rocked by scandal. Fallout might have a TV series. And will the return of Beavis and Butthead be a welcomed one? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source and Inside Sports Fantasy Football and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And I just want to give you a heads up, if you haven't already, we had our 200th episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos, which is right now available to anyone out there on every available podcast outlet. Plus also as well, we had great shows this week at the Lakers Fast Break, 2 in fact, and also Inside Sports Fantasy Football, where Cam Newton just signed with the Patriots. You got to go ahead and check out our thoughts on that with Chris Sardieri. Plus, I had great conversations this week from Rafael Barlow from the NBA Draft Junkies and Laker Tom from Lakerholics.net on the Lakers Fast Break. All those shows can be available on their separate channels or right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. And I also want to thank everyone that's watching us in India and wherever you get Blackjack TV. And also, hey, to all the different radio stations around the world, we cannot say thank you enough for playing the Pop Culture Cosmos. But with me today, because Josh is celebrating his 90th birthday. Actually, he's not. It's actually just barely past 30. The lucky guy. But he is celebrating his birthday, so we want to give him a special happy birthday. But we gave him a birthday present, best of all, and that was not to hear me for an hour. So I'll tell you what. I got a great replacement indeed. I finally got a hold of this guy and told him he had to come on the show. Our scheduling just never seems to work, but finally got him back on. He is one of the guys that I know with the best insight into pop culture. You got to catch what he's doing today with Game Source on Facebook. Also as well, he does a lot of stuff for Pop Culture Cosmos. His, the many podcasts he was on with me for the Game Source podcast and so much more. Plus also you got to catch his Twitch, which is right there, Degenerate 2018. It is a good man indeed. It is Mr. Jamie Monroy. And Jamie, I hope all is well with you and the family and Mr. Tony, who stopped by every now and then. Just hope everyone is well with you at the Monroy household.
So far, so good. I'm still doing the social distancing thing, as you can clearly see. But everything's going good. Glad to be back on with everybody, doing the thing.
Well, I hope you're not doing too much social distancing from your son, because you got to keep an eye on him, because he's kind of, you've seen his streams.
Don't remind me.
Yes, don't remind you, indeed. But we are going to talk about a lot of great subjects that are out there in pop culture. We're going to be talking about Ray Fischer, aka Cyborg from the Justice League. He is, I believe, excited for the Snyder Cut, but may not be for the exactly reasons that you might think. Had some comments over the week, so we'll talk about that. Beavis and Butthead. Those laughing guys are back on the screen in the near future. They just got a deal signed for another 2 years of Beavis and Butthead coming to Comedy Central. So the return of Beavis and Butthead, I know for a lot of fans out there that are our age, might like it. But is it going to be a welcomed one? So we'll talk about that coming up here in a bit. Fallout has a new TV series coming to Amazon. It's coming to Amazon in the near future. They just started go-ahead development on it. They just signed deals. I know everybody at Bethesda is just happy about that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And is it something that we really want to see because of the storylines that Fallout has had, and also the fact that Fallout 76 wasn't the greatest thing in the world since sliced bread? We'll talk about a Fallout TV series coming up here in a bit. Predator and Alien are coming to Marvel, but not in the way you think. We're going to go ahead and talk about that as well. We would normally have our top 100 movie-ish countdown continue, but unfortunately, due to so many things to talk about, we're going to have to bump that to the Monday episode, so I truly apologize for that. But if you want to go ahead and get more updates, you can go ahead and check it out on popculturecosmos.com. But we will go ahead on the Monday show, the Pop Culture Cosmos, and update you on numbers 30 to 39 in our top 100-ish movie countdown, because I know everybody's been excited about that. But first, my friend, and foremost is something that, well, we talked about on last week's show. Well, I talked about on last week's show with Noe and Fine and some great guests as well about the speaking out movement in professional wrestling. We talked about that as far as a lot of wrestlers that were implicated and a lot of allegations, and it led to a lot of firings, suspensions. But I don't think it's going to have the long-lasting effect on a major level the general audience is going to see, because I think AEW and WWE going forward will do a better job of doing a lot of background on these wrestlers. I think it's going to change from a independent and underneath, as far as the smaller promotions, the way they perceive and hire talent and be able to utilize talent going forward. I think there's going to be some changes there. So I think it actually, if for the speaking out movement, it will work in that fashion, but I think it's going to create a better mindset. But I don't think it's going to have a damaging effect too much long-term to the overall top end of the industry. There's another industry that is rocked by scandal, my friend, and this came to light in the past few days. In fact, I know Salvador Villa from Storm Rush Gaming, he talked about it. I know Christian Daniel Zamunio, who I've had on the show as far as one of our esports experts, I know he's very well aware of it too. It's another scandal in the esports industry, my friend, an industry that I've spoken about at length as being one that could be on the verge of being just something that an industry that general audiences would go ahead and connect with, but it's not quite there yet. And it needed to have some things done beforehand. This is not one of those things, because there's been, in the past 3 weeks, as reported on by ESPN, more than 200 allegations of sexual misconduct in the past 3 weeks that have been out there, including the most recent one, which is catching the big time eye. This is reported all over the place from the Super Smash Brothers fighting community. Nairo Quesada, he was removed from his team for some allegations against another esports player that's online, according to ESPN and several other reports. It's very disappointing. The sexual allegations are really at a premium at this point in time. And again, over 200 allegations within this esports community as a whole. This is a black eye, my friend, on the esports community. How much damage is this really going to do?
I think it's a really hurtful black eye. I mean, you've got how much stuff going on right now. You've had Mixer coming off the tails of Mixer. You have Dr. Disrespect getting banned from Twitch. You have, all these things just snowballing in the last, week or so, last couple weeks. And then you're going into this, and to be totally honest, it's harsh. 200 plus allegations, and not all of them are all sexual allegations. I should say that not all of them are all sexual allegations.
No, but there are allegations of some type of wrongdoing
in general. Exactly, you've got from giving alcohol to minors to what have you.
I mean, and this is an industry that was rocked 2-3 years ago by the Ritalin scandal.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know Nintendo's yet to issue any statement, and why would they? They've never been associated as far as it goes with the esports community when it comes to Smash. But the damaging effect it could have is astronomical if you think about it. You're talking about top tier players at at pinnacles that some of these kids look up to, like role models. I can be that one day. I could play Smash really good. I could be there. If I heard my kids say that right now, I don't think I'd want them to be there.
So if you said Tony right now, who is a major streamer online at this point in time, he said, "Dad, I want to go ahead and get involved, get to Evo, or get to some type of either whether esports, for whether it's fighting or what type of ever background, the NBA 2K League, whatever." We hear the stories that are now going with the allegations. Like I said, over 200 allegations of some type of wrongdoing in the past 2 weeks. And then, of course, previously the teams that were forcing their players, or players were trying to get the edge up by going with PEDs and Ritalin and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't want him a part of it at this point in time, because I think there's still some good to be had in the esports industry.
I agree. I absolutely think there's good to be had still. I just think right now isn't the right time. Everything is just way too toxic. It's always been had its toxic parts. That's anything. But it's just right now it's way too toxic to where the point is not so much I'm worried that something might happen to him, but what if something were to be alleged against him because he's guilty by association? Oh, I mean, one of the stories, for instance, that was an accusation was the two of them didn't shy away from the fact that they went to an after party after an event. So, no, I really don't think right now is a good time to be around that. There's too much risk.
Well, it is something that we definitely have to think about, that going forward, the industry itself, and that's esports industry as a whole, because it's, there's all these different organizations doing different things. It's not under one umbrella. That's part of the issue. So all these, the way that they manage it, the way they oversee it, the way they govern it, the way they look at the players, the way they treat the players, all those are different things heading into it, from whether it's Evo, whether it's, League of Legends, whether it's iRacing or whatever, it's a shame, because the esports industry as a whole, with the advent of the unfortunate incidents of the coronavirus, have this time to shine, because as you and I both know, video gaming as a whole has skyrocketed in 2020 because everybody's home more, they can do more things. And we saw an industry with esports and the rise of what Ninja's doing and so many other streamers that are out there, bringing this community even forward more to a larger, broader audience, which I think, as I've told you before, and I've told this to many people before, the industry of esports cannot reach the level that it wants to unless it hits a larger general audience, until it becomes that, okay, I'm going to go check out the League of Legends game that's going on at CBS, or I'm going to go ahead and check out that fighting tournament that's going to go on Fox, or something like that. So I really think that in order to do that now, it's going to be a lot harder time to get there. But the problem is just with all this allegations that are going on, I don't think these sponsors, and I don't think these major networks, which are starting to embrace esports, are going to look at them in they're going to look at them in a whole different light because of all these allegations that are going on right now.
And let me pose a question to you. Now, a lot of these allegations, obviously, like much more of the allegations in different industries and what have you that have been coming to light within the last year or so, have all been, past tense. Not to say that it's to diminish the fact that it happened, but we're talking past tense. Now, my question to you is, with the industry, it was starting to get to this boom right now with COVID going on, because of the fact that people had more time to get into it, had more time to stream, had more time to play, had more time to watch streams, all of that. And it was starting to hit that, like you were saying, it's hitting that point, but it needs to get there. And do you feel like that maybe this is a way of stopping it from getting there? Like this was pre-planned or posed to, like, oh, this is getting too big now, let's shut it down.
I don't know if
we do that.
I don't know if it was pre-planned. I mean, some people will go ahead, and obviously the conspiracy theorists that are out there will probably say, hey, yeah, maybe that's the case and this was pre-planned and all this was set. But I just think at this point in time, you've seen where in the past 2-3 years, TNT, TBS, certain other ESPN, the ABCs, they've gotten into starting streaming these games, these contests, these competitions. We saw the recent success this past summer of iRacing when it embraced the Indy Racing League and also NASCAR, until Kyle Larson's mouth shut that down. But they were actually getting some really nice ratings. NBC Sports was televising all this that was going on. And you see, obviously, the League of Legends that goes on when those competitions are out. They sell out stadiums, they sell out arenas, they get a nice number on Twitch. It was starting to get that notoriety when it was starting to branch off into a commercial general audience, which is what you want to do to get it to that platform of esports, to the Olympics, to the level of the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to get it to that platform and not be that esports joke, that's not a real sport.
Right.
That's what you wanted to get it to. And they were well on their way. But this is the type of thing, this is an easy out for those broadcasters, for those older executives that don't want to see this for what it is. That gives them an easy, low-hanging fruit, an easy excuse to go ahead and say, you know what, we're not going to give esports
This is exactly why we weren't embracing this. Yeah,
and the sponsors too. You know, the sponsors that were looking into this, because you've seen so many positive sides from the industry, so many companies out there throwing their dollars, throwing their financial weight at these esports teams. They're taking probably probably a second look, a third look at this now and saying, you know what, do we want to continue going ahead and investing into this? This is a concern. We need to look at how are these teams being run? How are these teams being managed? I mean, who are the people that are managing these? Are these credible individuals? Are these just, some hangers-ons or some relatives or somebody that really doesn't have the qualifications to go ahead and run these teams? So, we're looking at those people, the players themselves. What kind of backgrounds do they have? What kind of issues should be dealt with when you're talking about esports as a whole? Because it looks like right now that there's a big problem. And I think part of the problem is like I said earlier, esports is all over the place. These alliances, these organizations, unlike the NBA, stops right there with NBA.
right.
Anything in MLB stops right there at MLB. If it's their fault and their fault only. With esports, it's a whole different thing. And people, like you said, why should Nintendo make a comment on it? But they may have to. They may get drawn into it, even through no fault of their own.
Only because their game is guilty by association.
Exactly. Or Mortal Kombat, or a Street Fighter, or any of these games. Capcom might have to say something about it. All these other individuals, like NBA 2K. 2K might have to say something about it. If it goes there. It doesn't. It's a disappointing part of what we're seeing with these allegations for an industry that was just on the verge of becoming something truly special. And that's true. That's just so disappointing for me as someone who, I'm an older audience, but I'm still an audience that's vested and interested in seeing this grow for the community going forward, because I see and appreciate what video games can do for an audience.
Absolutely. We always have. And that's what's, so disheartening about it.
It is what's so disheartening about it. I couldn't agree with you any more than that. And I'm just, like I said, it's going to be a tough time right now for esports to continue its hold with an audience right now. We'll see what happens because of these allegations. I know Salvador Villa, like I said earlier, he's really distraught about it, and I understand his feelings. And I also know that there's several other people out there that are truly upset by what's going on. And there are a lot of people that were adversely affected by these incidents, and my heart goes out to these individuals that were adversely affected by it. These allegations, true or not, it's still some hard time for the esports industry. I'm just hopeful that if there's any criminal wrongdoings, that those people are brought to justice, and I'm hopeful for the industry as a whole. But the times right now, because of it, all that momentum you had that was growing by leaps and bounds over the past 5 years, they may be coming to a halt.
Yeah, this is definitely a major speed bump and horrific setback.
It is a horrific setback indeed. What are your thoughts out there on the esports industry in an uproar in regards to what ESPN was reporting? And that's a great article by ESPN if you get a chance to check it out. It is, like I said, right now in the fighting game community, but it affects esports as a whole. So what are your thoughts on the current allegations that are out there on the esports industry and the fighting game community? Please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's show. Hopefully a little bit more, more stuff, but it's going to be a little bit tough times because, there's still a little bit of angry stuff that's going on there. But I will say this, there's some good things coming up on the way when it comes to the Snyder Cut. So let's talk about the Snyder Cut right now, HBO Max. Are you excited for this original version of Zack Snyder's epic, which could be as much as a 6 to possibly even 8 episode arc for the Justice League movie, and what the what the hope is for everybody out there that what it could become?
Yeah, I just kind of feel like maybe it's something that should have happened to begin with, but that's just my personal feelings on it.
Well, it's hard because of the circumstances that Zack Snyder left. I mean, the tragic suicide death of his daughter. That just, as a father, as a father,
absolutely.
I would cease to function, and he did pretty much. So I cannot blame him a bit for that. And so Joss Whedon came and what we thought or what we were hoping would be cleaning up any type of contingencies or any type of circumstances, and give us a product that we would enjoy on screen. And ultimately that was not the case. It was panned both on a critical and an audience-wide nature. There's been comments recently by Ray Fischer, who played Cyborg in the film. I think he's probably very supportive of the Zack Snyder cut, not only because I'm sure it does present a much better light for him as an actor and the Cyborg character, but because he made some strong statements on regards to mistreatment on the set by the director who came in, Joss Whedon. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. Is it something that needs to be taken really seriously? Because I think it does. And I'm just concerned that if Joss Whedon is going to have these type of situations happen in the future, that this is going to be something where maybe you don't want to have him, even though he has a degree of success, especially when it comes to the Avengers, that maybe it's not the direction you want to go to have him as your man in the director's chair going forward.
Well, obviously the decision was made not realizing that was going to be the case. I would hope that it wasn't, common knowledge of, this guy just does this common practice, so I'm having him take over for me. It's fine. Everything will be great. Because if that was the case, then shame on, everyone involved. But I don't think that was the case. I think it was more of his resume spoke for himself. It seemed like the greatest go-to at the moment. I also feel like it's the case of the kid playing two parents. But that parent would have treated me better. And I didn't like the way you were doing things, so I'm going to tell on you because I didn't like the way you did it. I kind of feel like there was a little bit of that going on because of, with the tweet also, there was claimed that, the co-president of WB,
Jeff Johns, I believe.
Yeah.
At that time.
No. It was John. Oh, I had it. John Berg.
Okay, but also Jeff Johns of DC was
right. He was the president and CCO of DC at the time, and it was also claimed that they enabled.
They were basically complicit while this actions, which Ray Fischer had said by Joss Whedon was unprofessional and gross. Was pretty much what was the main stick words that people are gravitating towards.
Abusive on set.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it was just for that occasion or I don't know if it was under a time frame or issue. Don't know the real circumstance behind it.
Right.
But obviously, Ray Fischer is very supportive of a Zack Snyder cut because he looks like he had a much better performance or much better time or much better result of working with Zack Snyder than he did with Joss Whedon. I'm hoping also as well that this is going to lead not only for maybe Joss Whedon to realize, hey, I need to become a better person, a better individual, or way I direct on the set. So going forward, if I want to go ahead and be a part of any major productions, I want to go ahead and maybe give a better impression to the people I work with. That hopefully will be the case. But also, if this is going to be Zack Snyder's realization on the screen, we're going to see that coming up next year on HBO Max. I'm hoping it will evolve into a more in-depth Justice League, and that will lead to a much better product going forward, and hopefully an extension of the DCEU that was abandoned after the failure of the Justice League.
Agreed, because he's definitely do his justice. Pun intended.
Yeah. The puns are still here, even though Josh is not. But I tell you what, it's something that we'll be looking more and more into. I'm hoping Ray Fischer, who I thought did a very solid job as Cyborg, still continues in that character going forward, even after the Snyder Cut. And I believe he is, from what all the rumors you hear, is going to have a good part in the upcoming Flashpoint movie. So, which is now, I guess, on again because you have Michael Keaton supposedly signing up as Batman. That's also going to be part of that, and then all that good stuff going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yes, I would like to see Ray Fischer continue as Cyborg. I really appreciated his character in there. But I want to see, more importantly, how the Snyder Cut, which all these actors virtually that were part of it have given universal support of it. And it tells me that they all think that there's something there left on the table that audiences will truly want to see, and that the Justice League, once it becomes realized fully on HBO Max, is going to be something well worth watching.
I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't, the pun was there, of course, but he really is due his justice. I think, we got cut short. We didn't get to actually fully see ever what his vision was, and now we will. So I can't argue that. I'm looking forward to it. I just hope, like you said, I hope it does span into something more.
I hope it does as well, and I'd like to see that developing more and more with the DCU, because as Josh and I have spoken about at length on this show, since the Snyder Cut first got officially announced as returning to the HBO Max, or as coming to HBO Max, I really think it's something that at some point in time we want to go ahead and see more developed. It's great that you have all these standalone entities doing well. You've got your Joker here. You've got your Wonder Woman 84 here. You've got Aquaman 2 over here, Black Adam here, Shazam 2 here. You've got the Batman with his stuff going on with Robert Pattinson there and all that. But I want to see some of the stuff tied together again. I want to see them make an attempt to give us a reason, for the most part, to tie everything together. I understand you want to leave Matt Reeves' the Batman series that alone. Okay, go ahead and do that. The Joker, I understand because of the time frame and the fact it did so well, might want to leave that alone. I get that. But the Wonder Womans, the Aquamans, the Batman of Night Now, if you don't want to bring back Batfleck, some type of either Michael Keaton or somebody else, the younger, playing the role in Justice League, I want to see all that tied again. I don't want to see them abandon that and give that up, because I think that there is something there that fans do want to see. Yeah, it might be a hybrid or a copy of what we've seen already with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but again, when it comes to all the stuff that we saw before, the Justice League has been around forever, and I really, truly would like to see them play that out on screen and not give that up or abandon that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking forward to a lot more than what we ended up with, and to see that all tied together again. Yeah, like you said, we're getting a rehash of, Marvel and everything. But so what? Doesn't everybody want that? We're not getting that from Marvel right now because we can't. It's done. It wasn't in the cards for that right now.
They have to basically, the whiteboard is clear.
So why not go with what we can go with? Why not have it that way?
No, I hear you. And that's something that, with Marvel right now, in a point where they're going to have a lot of unproven IPs that they're going to go ahead and show off in the next couple of years. Now's a great time for DC to go ahead and build forth a community and a start to another major storyline that folks would want to see. Yeah, Aquaman, it was a great success. Wonder Woman 84, I don't know about the success of it now because of coronavirus, but since we're going to give that a pass either which way because of the coronavirus. So it's going to be a great movie, I think, nonetheless, as far as from a critical standpoint and an audience standpoint, whoever sees it. I think it's just, how many people are going to go ahead and see it in the theaters. That's ultimately the case. But any movie coming out in 2020, you're never really going to be able to judge going forward how well it's going to do, or if it would have been a bomb or not bomb, because of the fact that we're in the middle of this epidemic or this pandemic. So I'm going to go ahead right now and say, you know what, if you can, please start trying to once again, make an effort to do that, to tie it all together. I think myself, Jamie, Josh, and everyone at Pop Culture Cosmos and all the DC fans really want to see something tied together, an overarching storyline that's going to build this community and make it worth our time watching all these DC movies.
I'm telling you, they need to get the writers from CW. That is what makes the Arrowverse work so well, is because all of those shows in one form or another, and it's not always just this 2-part events, but they keep them tied together.
That's what we're looking for.
It's as simple as that.
And that's what we're looking for right here for the DC universe. What are your thoughts out there on the DC movie universe and Ray Fisher's comments, aka Cyborg, his comments on Joss Whedon and his treatment of the actors and basically the way he acted on set during the finishing touches of the Justice League? And do you want the Justice League to continue after it hits the Zack Snyder cut on HBO Max? Do you want to see that overarching storyline where people really get to go ahead and find out exactly what can happen when all these great forces in the DC world come together? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, 1.5 hour down, 1.5 hour to go. Once again, I'm on with Jamie Monroy, a.k.a. Degenerate 2018 on Twitch. Before we go ahead and head into some great stuff that we're going to talk about to finish up this show, want to go ahead and give you a shout out right now on Twitch. So what are you exactly doing on Twitch? What games are you playing? And where can people check you out as far as on social media or on Twitch itself?
Right now, I actually took a hiatus, but I am going to get back into the swing of things. I actually picked up some good finds here over Father's Day and everything. Got some Final Fantasy VII Remake, Minecraft Dungeons, and just got the new season of Call of Duty. So definitely some things to keep us entertained.
Well, there's a lot of games still yet to come out this year, and I know you're going to dabble in one or two of them, if I might say. So a great place to go is Degenerate 2018 on Twitch. And I always forget your Twitter. What is it on Twitter? I follow you, but I always forget.
Twitter actually has changed to the exact same thing. It's actually Degenerate 2018 now, too.
Well, there you go. Degenerate 2018 on Twitch. Degenerate 2018 on Twitter. I'm going to make sure I'm following him, and I hope you get a chance to as well. It's Degenerate 2018. It is Jamie Monroy, so check out all the great stuff that he's doing there today.
And speaking of you talking about things coming down the pike on there, Tony Hawk remake.
Tony Hawk remake, yeah, Skate, yeah. That's great. That's awesome. But as Josh and I said, and as I'm actually going ahead and following you on Degenerate 2018 if I haven't done it already. So I'm just going to say this once again for the 900th time, and that is that, you know what? I would like to see, and the EA should have announced this. Skate is great. I know a lot of people were loving the Skate and all that, but I really think that they should have. Well, I am following you on Twitter. On Twitter, yeah, I'm following you. What do you know? But I want to go ahead and just tell you my disappointment that a Mass Effect trilogy remake was not announced. That was the big thing. I think that would have hooked in a lot of people. That was what I think a lot of people were wanting to hear. And I'm sorry that that's not the case, but I know Skate is at least a step in the right direction.
I think that Mass Effect remake will come. I don't see why it wouldn't. If you look at it right now, we're in the era of what's old is new again. And it's to dip in our pockets 2 or 3 times. Come on, it worked for Elder Scrolls, so now they're just remaking games instead of rehashing them all over the place on different systems.
But I'll tell you what, my friend, it goes something like this. Yes, Skate was something that was commented on and wanted by the community. Mm-hmm. So they're just starting that process there. And yes, Tony Hawk is coming back. Yes, that's great. And Skate XL is now right there on big screen. But, for gamers out there, Skate XL just came out. I mean, it's going to come to the point where with skating games, it's going to be the reason why that they dropped off in the first place, because too many of them came out at the same time. We always saw a Skate and a Tony Hawk coming right around the same time of each other, and they came out almost yearly. In fact, they did come out yearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we only have so much patience and tolerance, gamers out there, for the skating community. It only goes so far. We've seen it before. I think ultimately it may happen again where a burnout will happen shortly thereafter.
Oh, I agree. That's why the remake is only 1 and 2, because 1 was the only game that was actually pertinent, in my opinion. 2 was good. 1 was where obviously where it all started. That was what did it. The thing is, you're exactly right. It's timing with everything, and I hope that they're not trying to go further than that. It's all fine for the nostalgia to get the remake in, but to say they go any further, there's a reason that the Tony Hawk games died out when they started going past 2.
I'm just saying. I think that at some point in time there's going to be another burnout, but initially there's going to be, as all things with nostalgia, it's going to be nice to see Tony Hawk and Skate come back around again. I'm assuming 2-3 years. I think Tony Hawk is a little bit ahead of the game right now at this point, just to guess from what I'm seeing, because of the fact that Tony Hawk was announced ahead of Skate. But we'll see how that works out when the new Tony Hawk or revised Tony Hawk or remade Tony Hawk comes out once again, and then a new version of Skate comes out shortly thereafter. So I want to see how far the love and nostalgia feel of these skating games are going to play out to a newer audience, per se.
Do you think the big difference will be the fact that maybe the new Skate will be next gen and the Tony Hawk remake is going to be sitting current gen?
That could be a very real possibility. I mean, the remake has a higher degree of short-term success and a higher chance of short-term critical success, because if it just is polishing off a very well thought of game, then it doesn't give you very much of it's a low risk scenario where you're polishing up to a newer version of consoles, an older game which is very well thought of and very much beloved. If you just polish it right, we've seen for the most part, if it's done well and enough money is thrown at it, it'll get some nice short-term love. With like Final Fantasy VII Remake, there you go, great game from the past. A lot of people loved it, and it was done right. Took forever to come out. But look, it's still popular even today because of the fact that, a lot of people are going ahead and you're just enjoying it because the remake was done so well. The Resident Evil, same thing. But we've seen some other updated remakes not done so well. So people have got to go ahead and be wary when they look at us. Okay, is this remake polished to the point where it's going to become a great experience once again, or is it just polishing it to the point where it looks the same and plays the same as I remembered it back in 2000, whatever.
Right. No, exactly. I couldn't agree more. That's always my skepticism with anything that comes with the word RE in front of it. Remade, remastered, anything. It's that skepticism of, are you going to get a better product, or are you just going to get the same rehashed thing at probably a more expensive price than you paid for it back in 2000,
3, 4, 5, 7,
right.
Whatever. But with Skate, an all new version of Skate, that's going to be a bigger risk. And if it does come out with a full new version of Skate 4, or whatever it is at this point in time, I think that's going to be something or actually, I don't think they will call it Skate 4. I think they'll just call it Skate because they like to just go ahead and say, hey, it's a Skate for the next generation. So whatever they do to Skate, making it an all-new Skate, I think that's the bigger risk, but also potentially the higher reward.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bigger risk, you run the fact of you run away your cult following that you had from the original Skate. But the higher reward is also, if it pans out, works out, everybody loves it, you hit pay dirt, because now you're getting not only your cult following, but you're getting a whole new audience of people that may have never even looked twice at your game.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part about it. That's, kudos, because they run that risk of killing your cult following, but sometimes it's worth it.
Well, let's hope that both the Tony Hawk crew and the Skate crew do a great job of that as they go ahead forward with their versions of a remake for Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and a new version of Skate coming out probably 2-3 years down the line, but we'll wait and see. What are your thoughts out there on Tony Hawk, and Skate returning to consoles, each in its own different way. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. You're the Twitch guy. I do a little Twitch on Pop Culture Cosmos, but you're the better Twitch man than I am.
You're playing the better game right now.
No, that's true. Last of Us, the original, I'm playing that right now on Twitch. When you get a chance, check that out. But for right now, I want to go ahead and talk about, well, what we're talking about. Let's get your laughs ready, my friend, because 90s nostalgia is coming back in form. We thought it was just 80s, but 90s nostalgia is coming back in form as Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, hold on. I need to put my shirt up over my head, right? Isn't that how they did it? There we go.
There we go.
You guys got it.
There you go. Don't set your house on fire.
I'll try not to.
Beavis and Butthead is coming back for a 2-year run at least on Comedy Central. Mike Judge has been asked to do it again by the MTV Viacom networks that are out there. Of course, it was such a big hit for MTV, and is actually one of the things during the 90s that for a little while was becoming so transcendent for the network as a whole. And it hit such highs. It had a movie, the whole 9 yards. And bringing it back again in a different culture, in a different climate.
Yeah.
I know Josh, while he's going ahead with his freedom from being away from me on his birthday, or it wasn't on his birthday, but actually it was a couple days ago, spoke about that on his social media and was very opinionated on that as far as putting it now in this type of climate. Would it go over well? I'm not worried about that, essentially, about any controversial content, because I think Mike Judge still it's not like Mike Judge was just sitting on the rack, not doing anything. I mean, he's been doing things. He's been having successful hit shows. He's still been part of that creative process. So he understands, I would assume, what today's climate is all about. Beavis and Butthead will still push the envelope, but I don't think it's going to be pushing the envelope as much now as it did then, which is the bigger problem to me. Is will it connect with audiences of today, and will it connect with us who watched it back in the day? That to me is the bigger question. Is it going to connect because of just what content is there, and is it going to connect with those audiences to somebody that says, "Hey, Dad," like your son. Your son's going to want. Is your son going to go ahead and watch Beavis and Butthead and say to you, "Hey, Dad, why'd you even like this in the first place?"
I hope not. Honestly, with his generation, it's going to all depend on, how mainstream it goes out there on social media. Honestly, that's what decides things for that generation. If you think about it, if social media says it's good, then it's worth their time. And whereas we didn't have a choice. And when we figured out what that was back in the day, it pushed the envelope for us. It was that, that was that risque thing that, man, our parents just can't stand us watching this, but this is great. The way I look at it, I look at Beavis and Butthead for us, how SpongeBob would be for maybe like Jen's generation. There was always those parents of, I can't stand SpongeBob. My kids will never watch that stuff. It's just horrible for a kid to watch. That's no different than what our parents were probably saying about us watching Beavis and Butthead. Going, why are they watching that? It's nonsense, but it was great. It would, I was just going to crack that joke about when you said not to burn my house down, about I won't wash the dog either.
Well, I remember the controversy back in the day when somebody actually did burn their house down because they watched it on Beavis and Butthead. So I'm not expecting that this time around. I'm expecting, like I said, to have that type of weird ambiance of a 90s show being revived and not everybody getting it, especially younger audiences.
Let me ask you, we've gotten the revival of it, okay? We've seen a little of what's going. It's slated for 2 new seasons plus spin-offs on Comedy Central. Now, here's my thing.
Again, well,
will,
that's up to debate, depending on the audience.
right
If it doesn't
now,
get an audience, that's the problem.
if it gains an audience, does that mean that it could eventually strut its way elsewhere? I mean,
Go back to the film. Go back to the big screen.
well, there, and we also know that, you know, there's lots of wheeling and dealing when it comes to product and streaming services right now. So who's to say it's not going to end up somewhere else? I mean, that's very closely associated with Comedy Central and everything else.
Well, that's the thing, and we'll talk about Viacom.
Which is a topic for later, right?
Yeah, Viacom has got some major deals going on, and we'll talk about that here in a sec. But when it comes to the IP of Beavis and Butthead, it's not hot now. Even with the announcement, everybody's like, pretty good. You know, I got some good buzz off it when I posted on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page. I got some good buzz off of it. And initially, just like everything else that's revived like this, it's going to give a nice fat number to start off with. But 6 months down the line, what's it going to do?
I agree.
I mean, we've seen all these 90s and 80s revivals and even early 2000s stuff revivals. They've come about, and they always start off with, they pop a nice number as far as audience is concerned. But it's dependent on what you're going to be doing long term. And so I'm like, right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not sure if it can gain an audience, if it will connect with an audience of now in the cancel culture, in the current climate that we have, if the current millennials and younger audiences that may not have seen it. I'm not sure if it's going to connect with the audience. And that's the audience it has to connect to, because again, you have the 18 to 49 demographic, which is so important to these advertisers. They don't care about me anymore because I'm beyond that. They are still caring about you because you're a decision maker. So if you are going to go ahead and watch it, but your son, who is now in that demographic, just starting out, just like those advertisers are all, you know, just watering at the mouth, you know, just looking at your son saying, oh, can't wait to go ahead and start buying. Yes, fresh meat, start spending now. You're the demographic and he's the demographic that they want to see. That's the thing. If it doesn't connect with younger audiences, you know, and you're just basing it off the older, you know, you're on the tail end, I'm on the tail end of audiences that saw it and might appreciate it, might stick to it. I have a feeling that that's going to be a problem for it being a sustainable IP going forward. Like you were talking about it extenuating the spin-offs, and you talking about movies, you're talking about video games, you're talking about everything else that Beavis and Butthead once did back in the 90s. I'm not so sure it's going to be able to do that again, simply because of the fact that it may not connect with the audience that Viacom, Comedy Central, Mike Judge really wants it to connect it to. That's the problem. Those jokes may not work. It may work in the 90s, but they may not work right now.
Well, I'm glad Mike Judge is at least keeping most of it to him, you know, himself. He's overseeing it, writing it, producing it, doing the voiceovers for both characters, which is great. But they're also putting Beavis and Butthead in a whole new Gen Z world. Admittedly, in a whole new Gen Z world. Now, back to what you just said. Does that mean they are adapting to said new Gen Z world, or are we going to get the same from the 90s that isn't going to fit in with a Gen Z society?
And that could be a thing where you have the fish out of water syndrome, where you have these two that are stuck in the 90s, and that's the way that Mike Judge may present them, is because you're not going to be able to change them because they're two stoner kids. They're still going to have to act like two stoner kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're basically talking Bill and Ted.
They can't become two Harvard intellectuals overnight, my friend.
What? You never know.
Stranger
things have happened.
Well, stranger things have happened, but these two kids are supposed to be, you know, just like stoner, drugged out kids. That's part of the reason why people
washed up, just, you know.
Yeah. So I think, but what I'm saying is when it comes to fish out of water, they may be presented as these two kids who were stuck in the 90s and who are the same but they're trying to go ahead and present themselves, the show presents them dealing with whatever today's issues and today's normal things that they want to do. Instead of going to the video store, they would be going to something modern in today's environment.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, one of the episodes, they lost their TV from back in the 90s. So obviously that's a big issue. What do they do now? Everything's flat screen. Like you were saying, okay, going to the convenience store. They used to go to convenience stores for nachos. Do they not do that now? Are we going to Uber Eats our nachos to the house? Like, do they even... Is it going to be the fish out of water? And is it going to be enough, though? I think the fish out of water syndrome might be enough for somebody like us, because it's going to be hilarious to watch two stoner kids we saw barely make it through high school now live in a society that they fully don't understand because they've been stuck in, a decade and never came out of it.
And that's a big issue. And how will they be presented? I mean, are you going to show them aged 20 years later? Right. Or are you going to show them still as the kids from the 1990s? That's another thing on how they'll be presented.
I think a big issue, too, is going to be that if you want to run with the Gen Z society and put them in it, then they better start to adapt. I think that would be a good route to go as far as for hilarity reasons. Seeing the two of them adapt to things of nowadays, where's the music videos? What are they watching on TV anymore? They don't. If they're watching MTV, they're seriously disappointed.
They are seriously disappointed. And I will tell you this, it's something that they definitely have to look at how it's going to be portrayed on the big screen, on TV, because now you have not only, like we're talking about with Viacom and Comedy Central, you're dealing with, streaming services. You're dealing with all these other entities and how you present yourself. So that's what I want to see, is how Beavis and Butthead will be presented going forward. But it's going to be very interesting to see. Is it debuting in the fall? But I forgot exactly when it was going to be debuting, or did they give a general time frame?
It didn't really give that much of a general time frame. Everything I saw maybe leaned towards fall, but nothing really concrete.
I'm going to say right now with the coronavirus, any new productions, probably 2021, maybe summer at the least. Earliest. Yeah. Especially animations. Only if you're South Park can you just like whip one out really fast like that. They have to, and South Park, they really have to do a lot in order to go ahead and stay relevant within 3 or 4 days notice. So,
you know what it just dawned on me too is being risque as Beavis and Butthead were, and hopefully still will be. Are they going to be able to hold a candle and stand up against the new big boy on the block that's kind of taken their luster from back then? And I don't know about you, but some of that raw humor I took away from Rick and Morty. I went right to that, gravitated towards it.
And Rick and Morty have achieved, I think, a level of success that maybe even... Well, I think, Beavis and Butthead at its height was more successful than Rick and Morty. Right. I'm going to argue with that. I'll argue people on that. But I think overall, consistently, Rick and Morty has achieved a level of success that Beavis and Butthead could not consistently stay at, because Beavis and Butthead was like a rapid, rise and a rapid decline, all in one. So that's, to me, was the thing I take out of it. But it'll be interesting to see how Beavis and Butthead are going to be able to be a sustainable IP and portray themselves in a new decade, 2 decades after their greatest success on MTV, on comedy, and they're coming to Comedy Central here, most likely 2021, I would assume. But yes, Jamie and I are going to be very interested to see how this all plays out, and hopefully you will be too when Beavis and Butthead comes back to TV. What are your thoughts out there on Beavis and Butthead returning to cable television with all new episodes coming in the near future by their original creator, Mike Judge? Right now they're contracted to 2 seasons. So we want to hear your thoughts on that. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Last 2 things I want to cover with you, my friend, before we head on out. Predator and Alien coming to Marvel, but not in the way you think. They're coming to Marvel Comics. And even though the promo artwork was with Predator on top of the Tony Stark building, They say that they
Holding
want to
his
go
head.
ahead for now, keep them as separate entities away from the Avengers universe. Although I don't think you and I are thinking that it's going to stay that way for very long.
Okay, good. You took the words right out of my mouth because it's not. Marvel is known for their mashups. So it's only a matter of time before, the Avengers cross over and meet up with, predators or aliens or what have you. That may have been a teaser poster and it may have been nodded off as to, oh, we don't want to do that. But it's definitely a sign of things to come, and I think it'll be sooner than not.
Well, the day I see a face hugger on Captain America, like jump out there, whoosh, right there on the face, that'll be a picture worth 1,000 words right there. And then Predator, just like, with the Vision and all that, checking out all the Avengers, while Tony Stark with Iron Man doing the same thing with his thermal, both of them just like doing dual thermal vision type deal. That would be fun to see. What's going to happen. But for people looking forward to that possibly on a cinematic realm, no.
No.
We got
to keep that one in the ink.
Yeah, that one's going to be just kept to comic books unless something dramatically changes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think you will see that one anytime soon. I mean, just getting Deadpool into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just getting him in there. That's going to be the only real R-rated content that's going into or being wedged into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point.
Oh, unless we can borrow Venom for a minute and actually give him the justice.
True. Yeah, that could be a possibility if the Sony Marvel deal allows it. But we'll wait and see. But for right now, in the comics world, I think a lot of people are getting a lot more enthusiasm. And I think the comic book industry, which has really been hard hit by this pandemic, is a industry that is in sorely need of change. And it's in so much sorely need of change is that, it needs a boost of energy. And I think Predator and Alien coming to Marvel could be just what the comic book industry is asking for.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a breath of fresh air. It's a great franchise. Both are great franchises. Again, I feel like we've been having a trend of talking about what's old is new. But, the two of us...
This is the way life is in pop culture. How many things can we remake? How many non-original ideas can we have? And how many things can we go ahead and redo to death, but we still...
How many times can we do it and they'll still take it?
Yes, exactly.
Skyrim. I mean... But when we first saw this back in the day, it was amazing, right? You saw an alien for the first time, you're going, what? And so to know that it's coming to one of my favorite comic books, Marvel, of course, is great for me because, one, the possibilities are endless. We've already seen what they can do with the universe. Just imagine what they can do with certain things within said universe. Yeah, right now they're saying they're not going to because, of course, they don't want everybody waiting for that. They don't want everybody chomping at the bit for that. They want to establish themselves first, make their benchmark, then go, hey, now we'll play the what if game.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens, but Predator and Alien coming to Marvel Comics is a good sign for the comic book industry and for comic book fans everywhere. It's going to be nice to see all the scenarios that might play out in the future for Predator and Alien at Marvel Comics.
The bad sign for Dark Horse, though.
Well, I don't think Marvel's too worried about that.
Well, obviously not. That's not the first thing they've taken from them. That's where they got Star Wars. Comic book line came from there, too.
Need we say more? What are your thoughts out there on Marvel Comics getting the Predator and Alien franchises? We knew it happened sometime because obviously when they purchased Fox, this is what you get when you pay all those billions of dollars. But what are your thoughts out there on it? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, it's been a great episode, my friend. But before we head on out, real quick, I want to hear your thoughts on CBS All-Access and Peacock, the NBC Universal type deal. They're sharing content for both those streaming services. They made a deal in the near future, so you will see some shows that you normally see on CBS All Access and on NBC Peacock, swapping, vice versa, sharing things of that nature. So Star Trek on NBC Peacock or
Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan.
Everybody hates Chris.
Yeah, and it's same thing with NBC Peacock. Some of their stuff will be going to CBS All Access. Is this a great sign for viewers, or is this a sign that those two streaming services, one of which has been around a couple of years and has not seen a great amount of success, even though they've got some great shows, especially in the Star Trek universe there that I've watched, that I've liked. But I know as a whole, it's not achieved a great level of success. And NBC's Peacock, which has started out, which is just starting out, which is actually getting like no pub, or actually, I'm sorry, they're getting little publicity because Quibi is the one that's actually struggling even worse than they are because HBO Max is taking all the thunder. So I want to hear your thoughts that is this a good move, and is this a move that's going to help build both of these of these two streaming services?
Actually, I do think it's a good move because I think that they're both trying not to be fixated on becoming like a dedicated hub for their own programming. Disney Plus. They don't want to do that. And I think that's a good idea because Disney, although being huge, if Disney were not as huge as they are, you could say the same thing about them if it wasn't for the fact that they had all their own original content. Would they have came with anything in the beginning? No.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be something we're going to look at down the road. I mean, right now, NBC's Peacock and CBS All Access, they're behind the eight ball because HBO Max has come out like a gang of thunder. There's also, of course, like you said, Disney Plus. And if Disney Plus ever decides to go ahead and have the smart move of combining Hulu and Disney Plus all in one package, I think that's a death knell for some of these smaller streaming services. And of course, you have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime, and you have Apple still roaming around there. Just, you know what? They don't want to know, you don't know if they want to commit wholly to this thing, but if they ever do, they've got tons of cash and they could throw out as much cash as anyone in the industry. So they could throw literally more content out there than anyone or buy up as much content as they want. So
in these streaming wars, I think they're the shark in the water.
They're the ones that are, or they're the wild card in this whole scenario. So we'll wait and see exactly what Apple has in mind. But yes, is this going to be something that's going to help both CBS All Access and NBC Peacock? I mean, for those viewers of those streaming services, it's going to be great because you're getting more new, fresh content or semi-fresh content. Because if you don't have one and you have the other, and you'll be able to see that, so that's good. But is it going to help substantially long term, helping those two become or reach a point of status where they'll be thought of in that upper echelon, that big league of streaming services? That's only time will tell on that. I don't think so. I think ultimately it's going to take new content, specific, exclusive content for each that's going to wow audiences, that's going to be must-have, must-view. The Star Trek stuff in the beginning was kind of close to it, but right now it's just more Star Trek stuff at this point, no matter how good it is. And I think people have just said, you know what, I either like Star Trek or I don't, and I don't go into it. But at the NBC's Peacock, yeah, they've got Friends, and they're going to have the Friends reunion. But is that going to be enough to go ahead and to beat HBO Max? I think Peacock has Friends, right? Was that HBO Max?
I believe Peacock has it as well. The thing that got me with Peacock was they do not have Fresh Prince.
Or do they have Office? The Office.
You know what? You're right. I think you're right. I think it is.
Yeah, I think Peacock has The Office.
Peacock
HBO
has
Max
The Office. Max has Friends.
Yeah,
yep.
So there you go. See, NBC doesn't even have its own most successful show on there.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't have Fresh Prince either. That's what made me want to get Max, is because I'm going, really? You don't even have one of your own shows that was...
But it does have the most popular streaming show, at least what Netflix was saying when it was on Netflix, and that is The Office. So at least they're going to have that. But I don't think it's going to be enough sustainable for both long term because both don't have enough choices out there and content that's fresh and new to make people want to go ahead and commit over a Disney Plus, over a Netflix, over an Amazon Prime, over an HBO Max long term. I think it's really going to be something where when it comes to the big leagues of streaming services, those two might be left behind.
Those were all good points. I mean, I can't argue that. You're right. Because if they don't come with something original, I mean, yeah, okay, everything else is great. I can't wait to see some of that stuff. But what's going to keep me there? I've seen some of that stuff how many different times and how many different places, to where do I really want to give you more money to see the same thing that I just watched 20 times on Hulu and probably 10 times on Netflix? Probably not.
What are your thoughts out there on what's going on with CBS All Access and Peacock sharing content? We know this is a good thing, but is this going to go ahead and keep you long-term with one or both of those streaming services? And do you put it into the light of all those other top streaming, do you put it onto the top shelf of all those other streaming services? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, plus also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, it's been a great episode, my friend. Any last thoughts on the way out? With Princess barking in the background.
Apparently Princess has some thoughts.
Yes.
Thoughts-wise, the only thing I can come up with thoughts-wise is I believe we left out a small subject of Fallout.
Oh, well, the Fallout TV series on Amazon, that's something that I think I'm going to have to talk about extensively on our Monday show, because I got some thoughts on it. Go ahead, give us some quick thoughts on the way out.
Quick thoughts on the way out. Showtime has Halo TV, HBO has The Last of Us, Netflix has The Witcher. That's all I can say right now.
And Amazon has Lord of the Rings and Fallout.
So where does that leave us? I don't know. I think I might have to jump in on Monday because I have way too much of a paragraph for this right now. And if you want to get into it then I'm in. Okay,
I'd love to have you back on, my friend, because then we'll talk. Why isn't Mass Effect one of those options as well?
Ooh, I like it.
So for Degenerate 2018, aka Jamie Monroy, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great